One of the big stories that's been going on out in these YouTube and social media streets is the controversy over Lizzo since she had her impromptu performance at the Lakers game where she showed off some of her assets to the fans and to the people watching on TV and to the people that were recording and eventually would watch it through social media. And it really created kind of a firestorm of controversy, if you will, and a lot of back and forth of people really centered largely on the debate about body image and how it can be perceived negatively in some ways and positively in some ways. And there's a big clash going on right now between people on the one side who feel that it's perfectly reasonable to criticize someone who they feel is overweight or obese. And you have on the other side people who feel like sometimes this criticism goes over into the neighborhood of body shaming and can be detrimental to people and to their self-esteem and just plain disrespectful. And so there are two sides that are kind of warring, and in many ways they're very far apart, and in some ways they're not that far apart in terms of what they're saying and what they're thinking. Look, it's a fine line between wanting to encourage people to do better, to live a healthier lifestyle, to want to get themselves in better shape, to want to lose weight, eat healthier, with nutrition in mind, with exercise and fitness in mind. Those things are perfectly reasonable. But when you start to cross over, you start to get into areas where you're talking about these diseases that people are going to get, supposedly, or where you're making fun of them and you're cracking jokes about them. It crosses a line. And again, it's a fine line where in some cases, as I said before, the two sides can be very, very far apart, and yet in some ways, they're not that far apart. It's perfectly reasonable to encourage people to want to live a better lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle that's going to be better for them and is going to, in theory, be better for their health, long-term and short-term. But it's another thing when we do it in a way that's negative, in a way that's offensive to people, and we do it in a proud way that can leave a negative impact and can really defeat the purpose of what supposedly people are in it for, which is to encourage people to think better about their lifestyle choices in terms of what they eat and how they exercise or don't exercise. So if your goal is really to encourage people to live a healthier lifestyle, but you're doing it in a negative way, then it's already self-defeating even before you start. So you need to think about how your message is going to be received. This is something that we talk about quite a bit in terms of communication. There's what we intend when we say something, and there's how it's going to be received. And in many cases, through our arrogance, we assume that the way that we intend it is the way that it should be received. But this is false thinking. This is unrealistic thinking. This is ignorant thinking. You have to consider how your message is going to be received. And so how you frame your messaging is going to determine the effectiveness of your messaging. You can have a message that means one thing and you intend it to mean one thing, but if you deliver it poorly or if you deliver it in a way that's offensive, then it's self-defeating. It's going to fail before it ever started. So think carefully about the way that you say things and the way that you encourage people to live a healthier lifestyle, because there is a way to do it without doing it in a sense that it could be perceived as body shaming, or it could be perceived as being a personal attack on somebody for a condition that may have other factors to it that you don't even know about. So think carefully about how you say things and why you say things, and what do you truly intend when you open your mouth to say something critical about the way a person looks. You may intend one thing, but then again, maybe you don't. Maybe you are intending it to be hurtful, but you're masking it as trying to help somebody to be encouraged to live a better lifestyle. So think carefully about what you intend, and if you're going to go down that road, be prepared for the backlash. Sometimes people are. We've seen that in the case of Lizzo. Sometimes people just don't care about how they're going to be perceived negatively because they feel like they have a sort of a moral high ground. But in truth, many times these people sacrifice the moral high ground because their delivery, their communication skills are so poor. It becomes self-defeating. So think very carefully about how you say things and consider very carefully how it's going to be received. And if you think that it's going to be received negatively, then maybe that's an opportunity for you to take a step back and to reconsider how you're phrasing the point that you're trying to make.